Good afternoon, audience. Thank you for coming. We now start with a session on strategies to achieve safe cities for women and girls. May I please request our panelists to step up on the stage. Mrs. Silvia Sánchez. Can I have a round of applause, please? Dr. Sunil Dubey, our moderator for today's session. Dr. Ranjana Kumari. Mrs. Sunita Sanghi, Mr. Marco Sotomayor, Ms. Monica Umesh.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending this presentation, this site event organized by Metropolis. My name is Silvia Llorente. I'm project officer for Metropolis Women. And Metropolis, I don't know if you know what's Metropolis, but I'm going to make a short presentation. Metropolis is the World Association of the Major Metropolises. We are a global network of major cities and metropolitan areas. We serve as the hub and also like a platform for Metropolis to connect, share experiences, and mobilize on a wide range of local and global issues. In addition, to be the focal point of worldwide experiences and expertise on metropolitan governance. Metropolis has a strong commitment with incorporation of the gender perspective in urban agglomeration worldwide. With the adoption of the new action plan, that was last year, gender policies are on the Metropolis agenda, with two strategic working areas. The first one is about mobility, sustainable mobility, and the second one is about safety and public spaces. In order to implement these two strategic areas, we have an instrument, a powerful instrument that is Metropolis Women. So Metropolis Women is the association instrument for mainstream gender vision in Metropolis structure, dynamics, and speech, and also contribute to the implementation of the new urban agenda and the Agenda 2030, especially regarding the accomplishment of the SDG, of the SDG number 5. SDG is Sustainable Development Goal, number 5, that is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. As you know, the inhabitants of our metropolis are diverse. Women and girls represent more than half of the population, with a wide variety of needs, demands, viewpoints, that must be incorporated into the planning of our metropolis. Freedom of movement and access to the political, economic, social, cultural, and educational rights for all depends on this integration. Thus, it's essential for safety policies in our metropolis to incorporate elements that promote equal use and appropriation of public spaces by women and girls, allowing us to enjoy our rights to full citizenship. From a metropolitan perspective, there is a plurality of stakeholders, like today we come with them, committed to the right to the city for all, for women and men, including metropolitan governments, which play a key role in fighting against sexual harassment and other sorts of sexual violence against women and girls, and also in decreasing the perception of insecurity among women and girls. Last November, we launched the project Safety and Public Spaces, mapping metropolitan policies with a gender perspective. The project consists in driving a metropolitan map with the aim of visualizing policies, programs, instruments, strategies that our members, Metropolis members, are developing to combat sexual violence against women and girls in public spaces. In the framework of this project, we are developing many workshops. The last one was in the framework of the World Urban Forum last February in Kuala Lumpur. And today, we have the opportunity to organize another one. Sorry. The networking event that we are organizing today, I have the pleasure and the opportunity to present some policies that, in this case, are being implemented by two of our members. First one, New Delhi. Thank you very much, everybody from New Delhi. And also from our members from Tijuana, Mexico. We want, with this different workshop that you are developing around the world, we have three objectives to achieve. The first one is increase awareness of metropolitan policies that can inspire other metropolis to implement the objective of the SDG and new urban agenda that call for ending violence against women and girls, and also incorporate gender safety into the metropolitan agenda. All that we can achieve only if we build a strong partnership between us. Our objective is to build a safer and more inclusive and resilient cities for all. We can with us and with you. I don't want to speak more because it's so late now. So I introduce my colleague from Metropolis also. He's senior advisor, and he's Sunil Dubey. He's the moderator of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now it's working. First of all, I want to say good afternoon. I think this is probably one of the most difficult times in a day after lunch when you have to wait for the session. So I welcome all of you to this session. We just want to go through something very simple, that why the issue of safe cities is very important when we speak about smart cities. And these are not something just aspirational things. These things are driven by very strong evidence from all over the world. And I want to put the focus on something which is critical when we talk about cities around the world. Without safe cities, nowhere in the world we have been able to make smart city. Safety, by default, is written within smart cities. And it's very easy to test. Will you pick up a city irrespective of its economic prosperity or its job opportunities if it doesn't provide safe streets for your children? The answers are very clear from all of us. We put ourselves in harm's way and we are prepared to go and work in the cities around the world. But when we speak about our children, we take a step back and readdress, and we simply say we are happy to have something less, but we would not compromise any safety related to our children, or for that matter, of women in our cities. So that by default becomes a definition of why women and children are important in our cities. Hence, connecting cities, smart cities can only happen when we have the notion of safety embedded in this. It's not an optional. It's not something you do it after you build your smart cities. It's something you have today as a vocabulary of smart cities. Hence, we are beginning to see something very, very important happening in the cities throughout the world. And I want to start it with a very simple quote from Jane Jacobs. And I think if someone has put a notion and challenge the technicalities of the cities in our era is probably no better than Jane Jacobs, who came almost from the left field without any notion of expertise and challenged every sitting institution which controls the city. And in her book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, she very clearly says cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they are created by everybody. Majority of the cities, by way of data, have more than 50% of the population is dominated by women and children. So how can we design cities which doesn't include women and children in our cities? Easy to say, but very difficult to implement. I'm an academic at the University of Sydney, apart from my role at the Metropolis Word Association, which allows me to look at different cities around the world. And the evidence as of today that more than 90% of the cities around the world are planned, developed, financed, managed, majority of the men population in the world. This is the data. There's no ifs and buts. This is a clear data. So the participation part is still a long way to go. And I think smart cities can address those issues. Why do we say it? We simply say it because our cities are bursting at the seams. Most of the cities, whether the cities in India, in Asia, or throughout the world, we have a delegation here from Mexico, and our colleagues know that most of our cities are bursting at the seams. When cities are bursting at the seams, we need to be very careful how do we implement and bring changes in our cities. I don't have any answers or solutions, but our panel is very distinguished to discuss those issues. And the framework, in the last 4 years, we have been working as a collected global community, primarily looks at what, as a word, we can do. And that notion was primarily a global consensus, what we call the SDGs. 2030 Sustainable Development Goal, first time brought a notion, what we call the Goal 11, which only focuses on cities. In the entire UN history thus far, we never had a specific goal for cities. It was a part of different health issues, financial infrastructure, but it's the first time in human history we are actually collectively, as a word, focusing on Goal 11, which is only about cities. Inclusiveness in that goal is a larger part. And when we talk about inclusiveness, there's a city in India which has been documented as the oldest city in the world. If you look at any evidence, the oldest city, the city of Varanasi, that's the first city. Of course, my Western academics has a very different view about that, but the evidence is very clear. As a city, the city of Varanasi was probably the first city which has all the fabric of what we call the modern metropolises. Imagine growing up in some of those cities. Imagine growing up in Varanasi. Imagine seeing how the cities, the cultural complexities, the assets of the culture, the religion, what happens day to day on these streets. As a child, you witness that. And then you go and move into city, which gives you a very different notion of complexities and challenges. You come to the metropolises, all the mega cities in India, Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, and you begin to witness something very different. The culture, the people, the challenges of the cities change, and your views about the cities change. It is my great pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, who not only worked in putting the women's agenda right at the forefront of the national debate in India when we talk about the cities, but also champions something very special. The notion of democracy is not necessarily just about the freedom. The notion of democracy is also how we are going to provide opportunities and rights to the most vulnerable people in our society. That's the fundamental moral aspect of democracy. The most vulnerable people. Who can be most vulnerable in our society, especially in the city, than children? Children who have no say, power, energy, or resources to fight anything. And when these children are sexually assaulted in our cities, which a lot of cities in Asia witness quite rapidly, you begin to think something is not working in the fabric of our city and urbanization. I'm glad to say Dr. Ranjana Kumari champions some of those causes, and Dr. Ranjana Kumari is probably one of the most recognized names when we talk about the safe cities. Women and children in our cities is probably the most loudest, vocal, but most importantly, the most impactful voices in our society. Ma'am, could we please request you to share your views? Dr. Ranjana Kumari.
Let us, first of all, it's very, very important that we are looking at the question of safe city, especially in the context of smart city. It sounds very nice when we say that we are going to convert most of our cities into smart cities, but as Dr. Dubey emphasized, that the city is not safe. The city is not safe for its people. The cities are all about people. People are not about cities, but somehow the way cities have grown, mostly I can only talk about my own country in context, from rural area to urbanization, somehow we have brought the cultural framework, the structural framework, and also the governance framework in the same way as we have been in the rural. Where there are important people be in the rural areas, well cushioned, well covered, good safety. Let some marginal people live at the outskirts of the city or stuck inside the city who are not as important. Somehow our villages, and if you all I come from a village, and if you come from a village, you know that how population gets dispersed in the way that where they belong to, who they are, and how important they are. So that's something which is extremely important to keep in mind when we look at urbanization in India. That has been the way we have witnessed. But of late, I can't say that same theory really extends when we are looking at how we are making planned cities. When I talk about planned cities, many are cities who have grown of late are becoming very much aware of this whole idea, in fact, and they are really making the structures of the city much more efficient and much more, accessible, much more people-friendly, and they are coming up. But one thing that we are missing, and I think that's one of the major reason why we are here, is why it is that this urbanization has not kept safety and security of population as such, and also much more for women into the center of developing the idea and policy for a city, developing the whole idea. How come we have missed on this very, very important thing? When you look at the way our cities have developed, you will see that not only the infrastructure, a lot of infrastructure is in a manner in which it is not children friendly. We have to fight in Supreme Court of India to get pedestrian along with the roads. If some of you, I can see the heads nodding, there were no pedestrians along with the road. Now after Supreme Court's order, we started getting the pedestrians. There were no public toilets even today, even now when I'm speaking to you. Most important buildings of the country, because we have been on these They never thought that there is need for women's toilets. When publicly we are moving around, we don't think there is things like those are needed in our cities. Women need those facilities. We don't think that women need to have access to health facilities. Women need to have access to, women or people, I would say people, generally they have access, need access. So I would think about an infrastructure which is being designed, planned, thought through, not people spending. Infrastructure develops and then we start discovering these issues, one after the other, and we start plugging these holes quickly. We don't really plan as a vision when we think about a city. Second thing which I would talk about, the governance system. Any city cannot be smart, cannot be safe, unless the governance system of the city. I mean, in Delhi we are experiencing it in a big way. And I was hoping that we will have our Delhi Women's Commission person here because there's been so much of difficulty in terms of governance system in our city, where people disconnect with the governance system and also between the two major systems of governance which is governing the city, constant conflict. If we have that kind of a situation, then how do you really govern a city more smartly, more effectively, more people friendly? How do you do that? And then, of course, everything else starts falling apart. There were researches where we found that city structure lacks loads of things like road indication, lighting on the road, areas stuck between the cities which are becoming pockets of crime. So information is not missing. But then who is going to look after that is something which is very important. That is why we need a good governance system for any kind of city to be governed and managed. And of course, other than that, we do need how to manage the population of the city. How to manage the people of the city, citizen of the city. Every morning in Delhi, every day, if you go through the day, if you are standing at the railway station of Delhi, you know that at least 100,000 people are coming from different parts of the country. Every day. Where are these people going? How are they going to survive in this city? Who is going to look after them? Will they be the ones who will be blamed at the end of it for creating safety and security issues for women and children? Are these people who are coming, migrating to these cities in search of livelihood and job, are these people who are going to be doing? So are we really keeping this in our mind and plan? If we are not, then let me come to the part of women and safety and security of women and children. If we have areas which are really very, very difficult areas for a lot of our population to access schools, to access health infrastructure, to access any kind of need for the women and children. Say a pregnant woman, where should she go when she is really going to deliver the baby? How far will she go? It's only, I'm not talking about in Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta and Madras. There are cities like Agra, there are cities like, Patna, there are cities which are, so whole country, when you look at the city systems as such, are we really making those plans? Are we really looking at the population of women and children as people who will need services, who will need all kinds of safety situations, who will need all kinds of protection mechanisms, who will need a system of protection which is robust? So policing. And here I want to bring you some examples of the work that we are doing in Center for Social Research, is how we are going from city to city in the country and looking at gender transformative training of the police personnel. We are training the police personnel to look at gender sensitivity and how they will deal with the crime. And that has been happening in, starting from Manipur to Jammu. We have done training from Delhi to Goa to Puducherry. We have, across the country, we are looking at the police training colleges, training the trainers, training the police, the first past the post at the Thana level, at the police level. Because normally the cultural shift has not happened in India, which should have happened with the kind of urbanization, modernization, talking about cities that we are talking about, smart cities. That shift has not happened, it's happening. I won't say it's not happening. It is happening, but it's taking so much time. So what happens? Same people who come from our rural background are the police personnel, who really think women are to be blamed. If something happens to women and girl children, they are responsible. It is what they wore, at what time of night they were on the road, what kind of, she attracted the trouble. Or at home it is domestic violence, oh, you must not have cooked well, you must not have sent children to school on time, you must, hundreds and thousands of reasons to blame the woman when she comes for any kind. If that kind of a law enforcement mindset is there, how do you really ensure cities really, really safe for women? From home to public places. If you are in the buses, if you are in the public places, if you are in a cinema hall, you just heard a story of cinema hall, just from Kerala, such a, modern state which is educated, everything. You heard the story about little child in cinema hall, how she was molested by somebody sitting next to her, a middle-aged man molesting a small 10-year-old inside the cinema hall. You heard about, so many things like, so where do you go? Where do our women and girl children go? How should they feel the confidence? How should they feel the kind of freedom? I mean, do women and children really feel the freedom in the cities we are developing? Are we really, the whole notion of being free, bodily free. We can go anywhere, we can do anything, we are not. That means those are the basic conditions to make our cities smart. Technology, yes. But when technology comes, when cyber technology comes, then we have to look at the cyber safety. With Facebook and Twitter, we are going across the country, 300,000 students we have contacted to tell them that it is not okay to bully, it's not okay to, start looking at women and their profiles in the Facebook and Twitter and start trolling them, bullying them, impersonating them, doing all kinds of things. So I think it's very, very important for us to know that technology, infrastructure, management, we can bring in all these systems. But unless people are happy, healthy and safe, and especially women and children. And as I was talking to Dr. Dubey, and I told him, my biggest nightmare at the moment, and biggest worry at the moment, and he said, is there something which stop you from sleeping in the night? Yes. Yes. Then something like that happens to a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. When little babies are being targeted in our city and we are not able to do, we are able to say we are helpless, we are not able to deal with these situations. Certainly people like me are very extremely angry. Forget about smart cities, we will reach there someday, but let's make the city we are living today a very safe city for women and children. That is the most important thing at the moment. That is what we should all together work for, and if we can get some good model. I always wonder, I think very senior officials are sitting here, I always wonder, why it is that, the whole NDMC area, this is Litton's Delhi. Why it was planned so beautifully, so much of broad alleys, green parks, beautiful houses to live, well spread and very safe. Thousands of people get together on India Gate, you don't hear anything going wrong. Same thousands of people get together, if they will get together in Punjabi Bagh, Narela, Nazafgarh, wherever you will see, I'm talking about Delhi, any other city, there will be 101 incidents that will happen, which will really discourage women and children to go to those areas and those places. So why? We do have models. We do have best governance model. We do have best structural model for the city. We do have everything. But is it only for handful privileged few, or can we make it, let's extend that to every citizen of my country. Everybody, every women and children are safe, then our city can be smart. Otherwise, we can just talking about smart city in terms of just having a little bit more technology, infrastructure and all those stuff. But it won't be a city for happiness, health and safety of women and children. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjana Kumari. So to set the context, I don't think we can hear any stronger word than what we just heard. You hear things like, do women and children feel safe in our cities? We have to put our hand on the heart and say, no. The notion of people going, our daughters, sisters, wives, anyone, walking on our streets, late night, early morning, is it something we feel proud? I think still a long way to go. So, when we see who faces the larger brunt in our cities, I don't think we are hesitant to say, first are women in our society and the children. But how do we address these complex issues? What do we do? Because the government, even as a facilitator, has a very important role in urbanization in our cities. But it is a very complex issue. It's almost like you have to fix up a flying plane. You are flying 30,000 in an air, and you are required to fix nuts and bolts in these planes to say, while our cities are operating, working on a day-to-day basis, let's just tweak the policies and it's going to fix up the problem. Sounds easy that policies can make a difference and change the societies and cities, but it's a very complex word. Bureaucracy is one of the biggest assets we inherited from the colonial system. Bureaucracy can also be the biggest liability for our cities if it's not done, managed, and planned properly. But in a role as a very senior bureaucrat for the government, you have to be conscious not only how the government thinks, but also to be the biggest connector between the people and the government. The political governments come and go. Bureaucrats not necessarily move that fast. In that, they don't only use their wisdom, and we have some of our Mexican colleagues sitting there and thinking the same thing like Indian cities. The complexity of bureaucracy is very deep. With the rapid urbanization, some of the challenges which has come to our cities are also challenging our bureaucrats, especially when you are in a very senior position to decide the future of our cities and urbanization as a whole. The issue of how you bring the larger debate about women, empowering women, making cities safe for women and children, ensuring that public policies and the government policies are in line with public space, equity in the space, and right to the city is complex. But we also have some champions who has worked and feel very proud of their work. It is our honor to invite now from the different side of the spectrum, from the government of India, a very senior bureaucrat who has worked not only skilling our people, bureaucrats, people working in the cities, but also focusing how the urbanization is linked to the education, skill development, and employment on a larger context. I invite Madam Sunita Sanghi, who till very recently was the senior advisor for the largest think tank for Government of India, Niti Aayog, and now she's moving as an advisor to education, skill development, and employment. Welcome, ma'am.
A very good afternoon. It's indeed my pleasure to be here, and I must thank ITPO for inviting me. The subject that we have chosen, it's very close to my heart also, because I am also part of that 50% that we are talking about. And I also faced, when I was a child, I also used to face the problems that today young girls are facing. When I used to commute in a DTC bus from my school to my place of residence, the kind of incidences that I have faced, I mean, I don't want to illustrate here, but the same incidents are even today they are here. We have moved far ahead. That was 30 years ago when I used to travel in DTC bus. Things have not changed. India has modernized, but the psyche of the people has not changed. We have been talking about that we are urbanizing fast. Yes, we are. We are now 31%. We are thinking that we will be 50% by 2050. But have we changed? We have not. Even the psyche remains the same. The way we used to look at women as a commodity, it remains the same. That is what we need to change, and that is what is required, that we need to educate. If you look at the pace at which the urbanization is happening, it is while it is bringing about new livelihood opportunities in the urban centers, at the same time it is also bringing about large number of challenges in terms of crime, violence, and fear. And these crime, violence, and fear are not restricted only to the cities, roads, it is also domestic violence. The women, the children are facing, the girls, young girls are facing these problems at their homes also. We keep reading in the newspapers how a father is molesting a daughter, or a brother is doing, or a neighbor or tenant, uncle, how they are doing. So it is these challenges that we are required to address. If you look at the major building blocks, as far as safe cities are concerned, there are three, to me there are three major building blocks. We need to address the vulnerabilities. When we talk about the vulnerability, it is a poverty in the first instance that we need to. Madam Ranjana has spoken about that we need to have health facility, we need to have education facility. Yes, these are the vulnerabilities that we need to address. As she rightly said, that thousands of people are migrating from the rural centers to the urban centers. Now, the people who are migrating, they are coming from diverse backgrounds, diverse level of education. When they come to the cities, they see there is a cultural shock to them. They're not able to digest the kind of environment that they are having it here. In their process of adjusting and digesting that, there are certain things that need to be told to them. The awareness generation needs to be done when they are migrating from the centers. The second important thing is that we need to enhance the urban safety and social cohesion. The social cohesion is very, very important. I visited Singapore some time ago, and there I saw that it's not that the people are living in their own hamlets. There is a social cohesion, different communities, different kind of people belonging to different economic backgrounds. They're living in the same society, and that creates a social cohesion, that creates an acceptance of different kinds of people. The third important thing, the building block in the city safety, is the good urban governance. Yes, there is a lack of capacity when it comes to the urban governance. In the 7,000 towns that this country has, we have only about 4,000 where you have some kind of a statutory structure. There are close to more than 3,000 where you do not have any statutory structure. Now one wonders why it is so. If you look at the policy initiatives, it's only, I think, in 2005, when for the first time it was realized, it says, we have cities, we have urban agenda also, when for the first time the programmatic interventions in terms of genuine started happening. Which means that till about 2005, right from 1947 till 2005, there was not much attention as far as cities was concerned. So I personally call them, not as an officer, I personally call them, we have incidental cities. They just happened. We never realized that they're happening, and they just happened. That is why we have cities the way we have. You go to Ashram, you go to Nagalai. I mean, the cities that they have given, you just can't pass. They're so clustered. If there is one disaster, they'll just come crumbling. But now, is it possible to restructure, redevelop them? It's very, very difficult now at this stage to do it. Now, there is, in this scenario, an increasing concern about women's safety in cities, and this has risen over the past few years. The fear of violence in the public spaces that affects everyday lives of women, as it restricts the women's movement and freedom to exert their right as citizens of a city. If you look at the UN Habitat report, it widely acknowledges that women and girls living in low urban contexts are disproportionately affected by safety hazards such as gender-based violence, unstable housing, and inadequate sanitation facilities or lighting. For example, in the cities that do not have indoor toilets, women face danger every time they move out. And there are many instances in Indian villages, Indian cities also, where women are going out and they are being raped. Under the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030, Goal 11, there is call for making cities and urban settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And I feel that the new Urban India Agenda, which was launched in 2015, is a step in that direction. Because it is focusing on, through its programs like Housing for All, Swachhta Abhiyan, Smart City Mission, Amrut Mission, there is a focus on women's safety. If you look at the Smart City Mission, it envisages that the design of the upcoming smart cities to be gender responsive and considers the differential needs of women, proactively seeking to bridge the inequalities between women and men. It is an enormous opportunity that this Smart City Mission is offering to reframe our cities in a gender-sensitive way to make them safer and more accessible for women and girls. In this smart cities, it is a technology which is playing an important role. It is important to create and share these technologies which addresses the needs of the most vulnerable people in the cities. The key components, when we talk about the smart cities, it includes surveillance equipments, network connectivity, data centers, command viewing centers, collaborative monitoring, and change management and capacity building. What we need is a collaboration. Today we have different departments working differently. They need to work in a collaborative manner so that the data that is being generated is shared among all and the data is used. In the smart cities, the smart solutions are applied to help the city authorities use technology to provide better services and infrastructure. Multiple intelligence systems are collecting public safety information effectively so as to reduce the response time. Many of these cities that have come up, they are using integrated command and control system. I have visited one of these cities, Lucknow, and there the command control system is very, very good. 2 years ago, when the Smart City mission was not even launched, at that point of time, there were many, many incidences which were against the women, and they were sorted out through these integrated command and control center systems. Whether it was accident, it was rape, or it was abduction of a woman, they were sorted out by these command control center. I'm just talking about Lucknow, but there are many, many more which I've not visited, but they are helping out. And they are helping the law enforcement agencies to monitor the public places, analyzing the pattern, track the incident, and then hounding the suspects. They are also enabling the faster response as a centralized system to analyze the inputs from the video surveillance, cameras, social media, citizen reports, so on and so forth. Recently, maybe sometime in November 2017, the central government has launched a comprehensive safe city plans in order to undertake the projects for making all public places safe for women. And this has been launched in 8 metropolitan cities: Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Lucknow, and Hyderabad. There are many measures which are being taken to make cities safe, to have a robust emergency response system and police verified public transport. Efforts are on to create some 33% reservations for women in police, installation of CCTV cameras, deployment of women in police stations, prevention of cyber crimes. Many of the safety initiatives which have been taken by many of the state governments, central governments will include, we have a Himmat app, all women patrol van, Shishtachar program of Delhi police, Bharosa program of the Hyderabad police, Suraksha app of Bangalore police, and Power Angels of Uttar Pradesh police, and these needs to be replicated in the cities. Other steps that have been taken by metro cities, they include mobile counseling vans for hearing the grievances of the women, lightning in the suburban railway stations areas, complaint boxes in the colleges, dedicated helpline for women, awareness program organized by the police, setting up of shelter homes for women, and making provisions for street lighting. There are taxi services such as Uber and Ola which have also been strengthened for the safety of the women. But there are many more things that needs to be done. For safe city solution, what we need is it incorporates a wide era of technology-driven subsystems. What is required is an integration and interoperability of these subsystems, and this is fundamental. What we need also is a better intelligence from various sources and sensors. The CCTV cameras needs to be used for as a crisis management centers, and technology will enable this. There is also need for integration of multiple private and government-owned CCTV infrastructure into the Safe City project. That is a must. There is also need for an independent analysis and feedback system to be institutionalized to assess the perception of women on the ground regarding their safety issues. An emphasis needs to be on a targeted intervention by police and civil administration for larger impact and women's safety. And I have a personal feeling that the urban agenda that we have rolled out, if it is implemented, and if we are able to create the capacities of the urban leaders, we can achieve something. In my previous assignment, when I was in the Niti Aayog, we had done some capacity building program for the urban leaders. And I realized that there is a capacity constraint. The people were not sensitive towards what is it that the women want. And I think Madam Ranjana has rightly said that we need to create that capacity, that awareness among the people. Unless and until those who are governing the cities are aware, yes, women have an important place and they're an equal partner in the development. It's very, very difficult to achieve the larger objective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanghi. I think some of the key things which came out was gender responsive, that how do we design our policies, manage our cities, which reflects gender responsiveness. Now let me take you about 18,000 kilometers away from this city of Delhi, all the way to a city in Mexico. The city which has got huge issue is a city about 2.5 million people, bordering with US. So you can understand the complexities of that city is going to be very different. But the city grapples with very high crime rate. The city grapples with huge challenges of homicides. Equally, the domestic violence and the work which relates a lot with the drug offensive are interconnected. When you are managing that city on a day-to-day basis, it requires a lot of tools. It requires not only policies, but it requires a determination that how you're going to implement those policies on a day-to-day basis. Dealing with homicides is very challenging task, especially when you have rates of about 1,200 to 1,500 homicides pretty much on average basis. That is a massive task. And in this task, you require something very strategic from the governance point of view. Otherwise, you'll fail to manage cities at that level. It is our pleasure to have our guest and one of Metropolis cities from Mexico and the head of the public safety and security for the city of Tijuana in Mexico, Mr. Marco Sotomayor, with us, who is going to share what he does on a day-to-day basis to manage his city's safety and security. Over to you.
Thank you, Doctor, for the introduction. Well, my name is Marco Sotomayor. I'm the Chief of Police of the Tijuana Police Department. I wish to apologize in advance for my English. I'm going to do my best. I would prefer to speak in the language of Quijote, in Español, in Castellano, but I think it's difficult. Well, it's great being here in India. I want to give thanks to Metropolis and the India group for the invitation. The mayor of Tijuana sends his regards, the mayor Juan Manuel Gastelum Buenrostro. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Tijuana. You're going to see a video, an image about the location of Tijuana. And Tijuana is located in the state of Baja California, Mexico, and it borders to the north with the United States of America and to the west with the Pacific Ocean. Tijuana is the most northern city in Latin America, and our motto is, "The homeland begins here." We share a 24-kilometer long border with San Diego, California. That's where President Trump wants to build his wall. And Tijuana is a beautiful city. It's a city that is fueled by immigration from all over the country and from all over Latin America. We even have a large population from the Caribbean, and Tijuana has a lot of issues. And one of the most important for us as a city government is to have a safe and secure city. Tijuana is a large manufacturing center, and in addition to tourism, it serves as a cornerstone of the city economy. For example, in the past decade alone, Tijuana became the medical device manufacturing capital of the North American continent, surpassing previous leader Atlanta. So Tijuana is a city that economically is well, but the issue with Tijuana is being on the border with the United States. For example, last year alone, the police department of Tijuana seized 1,200 weapons. Almost all of them came from the United States to Mexico, because in our border area, drugs cross north and guns and illegal money cross south. So we have a real problem with guns that come from the U.S. And that's a main issue, because organized crime uses those guns against our citizens and against our police officers. What are we doing to improve the crime rates in Tijuana? Because I concur with what Doctor said, and here is, if you want to build a smart city, you have to start building a secure city. And the main goal of any city in the planet is trying to get crime rates drop. And you know, in Tijuana, this year, crime rates have been dropping by 4%. So with all these issues, that's a good news. In Mexico, we have 3 levels of government. You can see it on the chart. We have the federal government, the state government, and the municipal government. In Mexico, cities have a lot of power. The mayors are elected, and also they are in charge of the police department. The biggest police department in Tijuana is the Tijuana Police Department. We have 4,000 employees. We operate the police officers, the traffic, and the fire department. And our strategy has three frameworks. One is police control of violence, police reform and transformation, and social prevention of crime. The government of the city of Tijuana is starting to establish public policies aligned with the new urban agenda, with the objective of providing universal access to safe public spaces. And for this, progress has been made in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals 11, Subtarget 7. Next, I'm going to talk something about the actions that the Secretary of Public Safety of Tijuana has implemented regarding SDG 11. You know, we signed an agreement with an international police association named CALIA, and we are implementing international standards for public safety. And one of those standards establishes that we have to have a writing directive that prohibits all forms of unlawful harassment in the workplace, and provides a means by which harassment can be reported, including if the offending party is in the compliance chain of command. Also, in civil and criminal cases, we have responsibilities regarding to the methods and the actions required to give protection to the victim and to establish anti-harassment orders. We have an alliance with the Municipal Committee for the Prevention of Violence. That's a municipal instance where municipal agencies are coordinated and articulated with the various community, business, and other social groups to try to end the violence. The axis of work of this committee is citizen safety, teenagers, women, population in condition of vulnerability, coexistence, community cohesion, and citizen engagement, citizen cultures, culture of legality and human rights, social urbanism, and socio-urban georeferencing. We have a Safe Woman program, and this is a preventive program aimed at the feminine sector with the aim of contributing to the reduction of violence against women, promoting knowledge and tools for vital importance in the prevention of risk situations at home and in different social environments where women can be vulnerable. The current city administration has given more than 27 sessions of 3 hours, benefiting more than 2,300 women. Another program that we're starting is an evaluative workshop that was held on the Safe City for Women program implemented by the civil association named Gente Diversa, or Diverse People, to measure change in perception, degrees of empowerment for women's permanence and sustainability with leaders from the cities from Ensenada, Tijuana, and Mexicali. We support with the USAID, from the U.S. Embassy program USAID together for the prevention of violence against women. And we are working to prevent family and gender violence with 2 workshops that we generated. One workshop is named New Roles of Men and Women in Society. That's really important to try to re-educate our men in society. And a workshop in detection, prevention, and reporting of situations of bullying and violence against women. We also developed a network for 400 women in 15 neighborhoods with the highest crime rate in the city, and we gave them financial support to grant it, to encourage and facilitate assistance of the workshops. And we're really proud to say that the Committee for the Prevention of Violence reported on the year 2017 525 more actions than the previous year, which represents almost a 50% increase in preventive actions. We are just starting, but for Tijuana, the new urban agenda will be integrated into the development plan of the city, which with the aim of giving continuity to the actions that led Tijuana to be a city that meets the goals established in the SDG 11 program. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Marco. What we begin to realize, the cities all around the world has a lot of similar problems. So solutions has to come out of those problems somehow, if we are willing to learn and accept. One of the largest gifts to the humankind in 20th centuries was probably the notion of democracy. Giving freedom to a lot of people was something very profound. But what technology has done in the last few decades is given an opportunity to exercise that notion of democracy at equal playground. What has further happened, by implementation of sensors and technology at the right places, we are beginning to see some impact. You know, it's very critical when we are in any kind of distress, especially from the part of women and children, that critical 1 second notion is very important. The decisions you make in that critical 1 second makes a difference what happens when women are facing trouble or children are in distressed positions. And what we have seen, the technology is beginning to provide solutions where we are beginning to fill the gap of that critical 1 second. There are some practical examples in our society, in our cities, where we are finding, in order to reduce the rates where there is a notion of violence against women, where there is a notion of how do we make our children safe in our societies, technology is playing a very important role. More than human intervention, technology has proven in the last 2 decades, it has got more power to reduce the crime in your cities. We are very pleased to invite our next speaker, Ms. Monica Umesh, who has been working to see through Tata communication that how this technology is making some of the fundamental difference in our society, and how a small application in a small equipment or gadget, electronic gadget, can really make a difference in our society. So we are very pleased to hear some of the experiences and the difference your device is making in our societies. Ms. Monica Umesh from Tata Consultancies or Communications.
you hear me?
Yes.
It's fine? Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for staying back for this session. I think it's at the end of the day, and I don't know how tired you all are, but lift your hand if you're feeling a little bored or a little tired. It's an exercise to wake you up. Okay, I'm Monica. I work with Tata Communications. I joined last year. So my domain, I mean, as you might have seen, I work with Internet of Things. And within Tata Communications, I lead what we call as the Women's Safety Solutions. And so I think all the delegates have spoken a lot on this topic. I'd like to start with what Sunil said right in the beginning. How can a city be smart if it's not safe? I think I'd like to really start the session with that. No city can be smart if it's not safe. And women and girls, I think, have been highlighted primarily because they've been traditionally looked as the vulnerable part of the society. And I'm passionate about giving an equal ground, equal opportunities for women as well as men. I don't think that, I mean, when I grew up, I knew that, we were all told, dress in a certain way, blend in, stay at home. And I'm glad that that is changing. A lot of people are, I think, through education and everything, I think that thought process has changed, that women can work alongside men. But the safety aspect about, when they are in public places, when they are walking, when they go to school, how can, can that be changed? A lady going in bus after work, late in the night, we've heard a lot of incidents happen. I think ma'am also said about children, about a child in Kerala. So in a cinema theater. So how can we change that? A lot in education. I think a lot if we involve women in the decision-making process. In fact, I was reading online, I think Tijuana, I think we heard a lot of initiatives that's being done. One initiative that stuck out, I think it was in Cairo, where, in the city, even though we say that it's, all people are educated, they have been sensitized to be, careful, and, what they noticed was there are certain areas women feel unsafe. There are certain, it's remote, and women themselves identified it, and collectively the society came together to come up with how they can solve these issues. So these are some initiatives that have happened. As Tata, we take this very seriously, and that's why we spent, I think 2 years ago, the journey started with a women's safety solution about using technology. Now, technology has had a profound impact on everything, right? With even communicating. I don't know how many of you have heard of this hashtag #MeToo. How many of you have? I can see a lot of people. Yeah. So you can see that it is not something only to India, but all around the world. Internationally, this is a common issue, and because of social media and that's basically technology that has helped us communicate the problem. But how can we solve this? At the time before it happens or while it's happening. And with that, we came up with this device. This is a small device, what we call as, it's a women's safety solution. I have not named it yet. Right now, it is being tested at Chennai, where I'm sitting, with the Tata employees. But this is a small device that a woman carries probably in the handbag or puts it in the belt or your ID card. And when you go through the public places, it tracks your movement. And at the time of emergency, you just press the panic button, right? And yeah, we did a lot of research on this and found that there are a lot of applications already on the phone, right, which do a similar solution. But we also found that a lot of research showed that at the time when a sexual assault is happening or something untoward, right? Even if it is not an assault, but say you fall unconscious or something like that, and you have, at that time, the first thing that is not there with you is the phone. So that is the reason we decided, we come up with this device. It's quite nice that it's a small, trendy one, And even if you miss this device, there is a second device which is paired to it with the Bluetooth. And this is how Tata is looking at, leveraging the technology to help women, at least, call out for help at the time. Basically it sends an alert. We are working with the large enterprises right now about offering this as a service to their women employees so that the journey from the office to home is covered. But we are also working with municipalities, with the police departments to take this a step further and include, make this an end-to-end solution. So that's a bit about what Tata has done. I think I'm just trying to see if I have, yeah. Yeah, I think, I'd like to end the session. I'd like to, in conclusion, say that I think we have come a long way as women. I think we have, I think ma'am has covered, she has started from much before me, and then in my generation, what we have seen the change has come a long way, and technology is helping women to stay there, but there's a lot of change in how we look at, women to help women, men to allow women, to be on their same, to work on par with them. And I'd like to leave that as a thought with all of you. Thank you.
What happens when you press the button?
Right now, if you press a button, it goes as a alert to your, you would have configured an emergency contact, and so to a security.
It goes to home.
It goes to home and an
the
emergency
government's
contact.
Himmat goes to police to home.
Yes.
To a friend.
Yeah, we are
Does
configuring, yeah.
Dovetailing it with Himmat and other.
We are dovetailing it with actual police emergency helpline number.
Thank you, Monica. And thank you for asking the question. I think that's very important. What happens once you press the button? That's where the critical 1 second plays a very important role. It's very good to see how simple devices are making a difference. They may not be perfect as a simple thing, but it's quite sure in coming years we'll see the improvement. So our best wishes, and please share it with us what's the outcomes of these from Chennai or any other cities. Thank you, Monica. There's a city in Colombia, city of Medellin, and city of Medellin has very historical, very strong past, known as the drug capital of the world, and they transformed, the whole social fabric in the city was transformed. When we analyze the city, what really transformed Medellin, which is now seen as a poster boy in the cities, they are probably won the most desirable global cities award in the last 5 years than any other cities from the Western world or from Asia. But what we found, that the difference in city of Medellin was made by something very interesting. Their crime rate, their drug related incidents went down by having a strong community engagement in 2 places. Number 1 is the transport, and number 2 is the public spaces. Transport in our cities has an ability to make your city very vulnerable, but it also has an ability to transform your cities to make you feel very safe. There are numerous examples in this world where you can see the transport plays a very important role. City of Seoul, where the crime on their transport is one of the lowest, hence the city itself has got one of the lowest crime rates in Asian cities, and it's a huge city. It's not a small city, it's one of the largest mega cities, 20 plus million people in Seoul. Then we have a city of Singapore. Both these cities thrive and feel very proud how they manage their transport and people's participation. Our next speaker, Mr. Vishwas Singh, is from Shuttl, India, has developed an app where the public participation in making our transport safer, equitable and accessible is one of the most key areas of their development in the city's solutions. So over to you, sir. Yes, yes. It's on now. Hello? Am I audible? Hey, use this one. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Rather afternoon. It's pretty late. Hello. I'm Vishwas. I'm from Shuttl. What our organization does is it transports people in buses. We call ourselves a technology-enabled, seed-based, demand-adaptive, urban mobility solution, which is based on a bus. What we do is we employ technology to bring in safety, as the topic, for today's discussion is. So I'll briefly connect today's agenda with my experience that has been. I'm an engineer from background. I saw 10% women in my batch, and something similar continued when I started working in different companies. I never saw more than 20% of women in workforce.
We get one question.
I read some data around what is the population, what is the education data, what is the workforce data. What I see is that women typically comprise 50% of the population, more or less. But the participation in workforce is as low as 22%. China has 65% women participating in workforce. US has around 56%. India is way behind. This was one thought that kept, hanging in my mind, and then I started working with Shuttl since last 3 years. What we saw that in Shuttl buses, the number of females who commute, that number is close to 56%. Delhi Metro has the same number to be around 18%. And working population of women at corporates, it is around 22%. It's a significant number. And we kind of delved into it, what has made it happen. We conducted different surveys, we met our customers, tried to understand what is it that females find so interesting or so safe in Shuttl buses. One of the response was, which I believe is the fundamental reason for that choice of commute, is that they end up commuting with people whom they know beforehand. Their identities are known. These are authorized passengers. Their journey is tracked. They can, using our application, they can share the journey with their family members, emergency contacts, and in case of incidents, you can trigger SOS buttons. So one fundamental thing that we understood from this was, severity of punishment doesn't deter crime. What deters crime is certainty of punishment. And how do you make certain that if there is an offender, there is a certain punishment for that offender? That certainty comes only when you have technology tracking people, tracking incidents. And that is exactly what we have done. We have used technology which is already available in mobile phones, which is microphone, which is video feed, which is audio feed, CCTV cameras, face recognition, location-based technologies. We have implemented each of these to make sure that the journey is safe. I'll give one small example. Typically, if there is a female employee leaving office after, say, 7 p.m., the state mandates, there is a regulation that she needs to be escorted back to home by a guard, and once she reaches back home, there has to be a call back to the lady, checking that if she has reached home safely or not. And if there is a positive or negative response or no response on the call, alarm is triggered. Something similar we have implemented in Shuttl buses through technology. How we have done that is, we have taken 3 inputs. One is the emergency contact that person wants in case of incident to be triggered. Second is their home location, the GPS coordinates of their home location. Third is how much time they typically take after getting down from Shuttl bus to reach their home. Once these 3 input is there with us, we start a trigger, a counter, when the journey happens. And once the lady steps out of the bus, we keep that counter on for that time period that she has provided that I take around 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes to reach my home. And after 30 minutes, we check that if her live location is not matching the home location that she has provided, we trigger alarms. And what does those alarms mean? It has details of the bus which was carrying the lady. It has details of the driver, the owner of the bus, the co-passengers who were still there in the bus who have not deboarded yet. All that information is passed on to the emergency contact, and they are supposed to respond now. If that doesn't happen, we trigger that information back to police system through SMS, through email notification. What it does is, within seconds, it is sharing the complete last update information about that lady with the police authorities. And that saves time, and that makes the response system really fast. So these are a couple of examples that I wanted to share. In general, we believe that if there is equal population of women, they have also proved in all walks of life that they have equal potential. Then why there should be lesser participation in workforce? And a better participation in workforce happens when the opportunities are unlocked. And opportunities are unlocked if they can travel fearlessly. And that is what we are trying to help them achieve. Travel fearlessly and pursue their dreams without any fear in any city, in any location they want. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishwas. Travel fearlessly, that's fantastic, and let's hope we all travel fearlessly after this session. Look, with the limitation of time, I have to request our speakers just to stay for one question. I know it's going to be a tough call because some of you are already very eager to ask questions. So when I say one, we'll probably stretch as we do for two. But could you make your question, if you do have a question, very specific, not your observation or comment, very specific question, and who would you like to ask this question as well? So may I please invite two questions from the audience. I see a hand there, and please, ma'am, please keep your questions very specific, and who would you like it to answer?
Sure, thank you very much. My question goes to the last two panelists. The solutions you have shared seem, in fact, to provide safety to women to a good extent. However, I wonder how does this combine with privacy? Because when I was listening to the last presentation, for example, I was feeling, do I really want to share that much details? And if I'm a passenger in this bus, do I really want to be tracked just because I'm a passenger in the bus? So can you please give a bit of thoughts on, I'm sure you've thought of it, it's a question I'm sure you're getting often. So can you please elaborate on this a bit, how safety can combine with privacy? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a very pertinent question. Safety and privacy, safety cannot be compromised. At the same time, privacy also cannot be compromised. The information that we take is for a particular service. So it is an opt-in based information. If you opt in that your location can be tracked, that is when it will be tracked. Otherwise, it will not be tracked. Second is, there is one more option in which you can share tracking of your location, not with the organization, but with your emergency contacts. So it is entirely based on your choice. Second thing is, when real SOS gets triggered and when we have to share information with the authorities, that is the time when we seek prior permission that, if authorities want information, a police department wants information of your last location, we will have to provide that. That is our commitment towards authorities. And we put that in our, terms of use.
Thank you. Thank you, Vishwas. We have time for one more question. Please raise your hand. And it will be good if you also introduce yourself. My apologies, I didn't. We have time. Please, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you for allowing me to ask a question. I'm Shubha Sinha. I'm from Pune. I'm an architect, and I'm working trying to work with some cities, and so mainly highlighting social issues through design. My question is to Ranjana, especially about thinking about cultural and the cultural, how to change the mentality of people. How do you think, that counts and how can we inculcate that in policy? So that's my question.
I think, thank you for asking this question. I feel that, I have a lot of quarrel with this whole perspective of safety, which is, again, the burden is on women, that you press the button, you call someone. Why don't we have a device which will give a big shock to a man if she's trying to reach out to a woman?
Yep.
Why don't we think like, why don't we have something which will attack him like, gorilla or something if he tries to, try to catch hold of a girl? Why not? Why every solution? Every solution we are trying to find, how do you keep yourself safe? Please press this button, the police will listen. That means society, even in the smart city phase, a smart city will remain the same. So you have to have these buttons and you have to have these himmat, you have to have this, that and the other. And I still cannot move freely. People will track me where I am. Pregnant women will have to go and report to the police that I'm not going for sex selection. I'm not, all kinds of things are, again, the burden is. So this is really a very patriarchal perspective where we are not still freeing the woman to be, living wherever she is. That's what I meant by cultural shift. You have to understand that I'm also a citizen of this country. I have constitutional rights. I must not be attacked by anyone. My space is my space. It's not your space. You are not only born to use this space. My children are my girl. My daughter is equally born to share this space. Why can't we grill this into the heads of everybody in our society instead of saying, press this button, that button? So that's what I meant. And we will have individual conversations. You can send me a lot of emails and I'll reply them all. I can promise that. Thank you.
Equal opportunity and equal playground for all, most importantly for women and children. And with that note, I want to say thanks to all our panel members, especially the keynote speakers and experts who are bringing this notion of cities for all to our cities in India, and hopefully smart cities would take some notion. This is for you to take, ma'am, and many more things.
Ma'am, if you could just give us 2 minutes, we would like to give you a token of appreciation for the
token
wonderful
of appreciation as well.
May I have, sir, if you could please do the honors.
This is
Dr. Ranjana Kumari.
Thank you.
Mrs. Sunita Sanghi.
Here we go, ma'am.
Mr. Marco.
Here we go. We'll look at this.
Miss Monica Umesh.
If I just hold on for 1 second, 1 second.
Mr. Vishwas Singh. And ma'am, a quick photograph, please.
Yes. Well done. Okay. And if we can all stand here for a quick photograph, please, ma'am.
Sir, may I have the honors of presenting?
Absolutely, you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.